Ah, France, the land of fine wine, gourmet cheese, and an absurdly dramatic royal history. From warlords in wolf pelts to powdered-wig monarchs throwing lavish parties while the people starved, the French monarchy was anything but boring. Meet the kings and queens of France, a centuries-long parade of ambition, betrayal, and questionable fashion choices. We're talking about rulers who waged wars over who got to sit on which chair and executed rivals like it was a national sport. The French throne passed through some of the most iconic dynasties in history: the Merovingians, who looked like they crawled out of a Viking metal band; the Carolingians, who gave us Charlemagne, aka Mr. Holy Roman Emperor; the Capetians, who ruled forever and somehow kept producing kings named Philip; and let's not forget the Bourbons, whose love for luxury literally got them beheaded. These kings and queens shaped France into what it is today, sometimes through brilliant reforms, but mostly through epic blunders that historians are still laughing about. And in this series, we're diving into all of it: the victories, the scandals, the royal drama that makes modern soap operas look tame. So buckle up, because this is the story of the French monarchy, where crowns were heavy, heads were rolling, and power was never guaranteed.
Before Versailles, before Joan of Arc, before the Revolution, there were the Merovingians. They ruled France before it was even called France, and they did it with an iron fist, a lot of swords, and some of the most glorious hair in medieval history. The Merovingians were the OG rulers of what would become France, kicking things off in the 5th century. Their founder, Childeric I, set the stage with some solid conquest skills, but it was his son Clovis I who really put the family name on the map. Clovis was the guy who went from barbarian warlord to Christian king, because nothing says "I'm a respectable ruler" like a last-minute conversion to keep the church on your side, and thus the Merovingians ruled for almost 300 years. Well, kind of. The early Merovingians were fierce warriors, but as time went on, their kingdom became a chaotic family feud. Kings kept dividing the land between their sons, leading to a royal mess of mini-kingdoms, betrayals, and more backstabbing than a Game of Thrones episode. And let's not forget the queens, because if you thought the kings were ruthless, you clearly haven't met Fredegund and Brunhilde, two women who turned family drama into full-scale wars. By the 7th century, Merovingian kings had become figureheads, while their mayors of the palace, aka the guys actually running things, took control. By the time Childeric III came along, he was about as useful as a decorative rug. In 751, Pepin the Short, yes, that was really his name, decided enough was enough and ditched the last Merovingian king, officially starting the Carolingian Dynasty, and just like that, the long-haired kings were history. They started as warrior kings and ended as royal mascots. Their story is one of conquest, betrayal, and some of the wildest family feuds in medieval history. And now we dive into the individual rulers, starting with the man, the myth, the exile, Childeric I.
In the year 457, a man named Childeric I emerged from the chaos of the collapsing Roman Empire. He wasn't your average barbarian chieftain. He was the founder of a dynasty that would rule for nearly 300 years, the Merovingians. But like most great stories, his begins with betrayal, exile, and beeswax. Childeric wasn't born into stability. The Western Roman Empire was crumbling faster than a poorly baked pie, and barbarian tribes were scrambling to carve out their own kingdoms. Childeric, the son of King Merovec, took the reins of the Salian Franks during this chaotic period. Known for his cunning and charisma, Childeric united his people and allied with the remaining Roman elites. But even in those early days, power wasn't all smooth sailing. Childeric's early reign hit a snag, a rather dramatic one. According to legend, he was too fond of the local ladies, and the scandal forced him into exile. He fled to the court of King Basina of Thuringia, leaving his people to fend for themselves. Before leaving, Childeric devised a clever way to stay connected. He left behind a cache of gold coins and seals hidden in beeswax, with instructions for a loyal servant. This served as a secret signal for his eventual return. After 8 years in exile, Childeric returned triumphant. Why? Because his people realized life without him was like a Frankish feast without ale, just sad. And as a cherry on top, he brought along Basina, the queen who left her husband to join him. Basina wasn't just arm candy. She was an ambitious power player. When asked why she left her first husband, she reportedly said, "I want to marry the most powerful man." Clearly, she had a type. With Basina at his side, Childeric got to work. He didn't just fight battles. He strategized, creating alliances with Romans and other tribes. Together with the Roman general Aegidius, he helped defend northern Gaul against invading Visigoths and Saxons. Childeric's victories solidified his reputation as a warrior king. And let's not forget his flair for the dramatic. He wore long, flowing hair, a symbol of royal blood in Frankish culture, and wielded a bejeweled axe that practically screamed, "I'm in charge." Childeric's reign ended around 481, but his legacy was just beginning. His son, Clovis I, would go on to unite the Franks and lay the foundation for modern France. But Childeric left behind more than just an impressive lineage. In 1653, his tomb was discovered in Tournai, Belgium, containing gold signet rings, swords, and golden bees. These bees became a symbol of immortality and were later adopted by none other than Napoleon Bonaparte. Talk about a legacy that sticks. Childeric I may not have been the most famous Frankish king, but his reign marked the beginning of an era. A warrior, a strategist, and yes, a scandal magnet. He was the beard behind the throne that shaped history. Meet Clovis I, the man who took a bunch of feuding Frankish tribes and turned them into a kingdom. He fought wars, cracked skulls, converted to Christianity, and set the foundation for modern France. In short, he was kind of a big deal. But before he was king of the Franks, he was just another ambitious warlord with a great beard and a sharp sword. So how did he go from barbarian chieftain to the first official king of what would become France? Well, let's find out. Born around 466 AD, Clovis inherited his father Childeric II's throne at just 15 years old, which back then meant he was expected to fight, conquer, and, most importantly, not die immediately. And boy, did he deliver. Clovis was a fighter, a strategist, and, unlike a lot of his royal descendants, actually competent. Clovis wasted no time doing what Frankish kings did best, conquering stuff. First up, the Roman province of Soissons, ruled by a guy named Syagrius, aka the last Roman in Gaul. In 486 AD, Clovis smashed Syagrius's forces and took over northern Gaul. The message was clear: Rome is out. The Franks are in. Now Clovis had a small PR problem. The Franks were mostly pagans, but the powerful people in Gaul, they were Christian. And Clovis's wife Clotilde, very Christian. She kept nagging him to convert, but Clovis was like, "Nah, my gods are doing just fine." That is, until he found himself losing a major battle against the Alemanni. With things looking real bad, Clovis finally prayed to the Christian God. "If you let me win this, I swear I'll get baptized." And in 496 AD, he kept his promise. Clovis was baptized in Reims, bringing 3,000 of his warriors with him. Congratulations, Clovis. You just made Christianity the dominant religion in France. Hope you're happy. With divine approval secured, Clovis went full conquer mode, crushing rival Frankish kings, taking over most of Gaul and turning the Franks into one unified kingdom. He even got the Pope's blessing, making him the first official king of the Franks. And unlike most rulers of his time, he actually planned for the future, sort of. Okay, maybe not perfect planning, but hey, at least he built something worth fighting over. After nearly 30 years of ruling, Clovis died in 511 AD. He left behind a powerful Frankish kingdom, a solid religious alliance, and a dynasty that would last until it didn't. Sigh. Classic. Clovis wasn't just another warlord. He was the guy who turned the Franks into a powerhouse. He laid the foundation for medieval France, made Christianity the dominant force in Europe, and basically set the stage for every French king after him. Not bad for a guy who started as a teenage warrior with a sword and a dream. And with that, we close the chapter on Clovis I. Stay tuned because the Merovingian drama is far from over.
Clothar I, the guy who inherited a kingdom, spent his life fighting for more of it, and then for some reason thought dividing it up among his sons was a brilliant idea. Spoiler, it wasn't. But let's start at the beginning, because before he was a king, he was just another ambitious prince with a knack for survival. When Clovis I, the OG king of the Franks, died in 511 AD, he left his kingdom to his 4 sons. And just like any good medieval family, they spent the next few decades fighting each other for control. Clothar got the northern chunk, including Soissons, but sharing power wasn't exactly the Merovingian way, so naturally the brothers started assassinating their rivals and taking more land. Clothar spent most of his reign expanding his kingdom, by force of course. He conquered Burgundy, annexed parts of Aquitaine, and had a very questionable hobby of eliminating potential rivals, including, his own relatives. Fun fact, he and his brother Childebert once wiped out their own nephews just to keep the family business exclusive. Now that's dedication. One of Clothar's biggest headaches, Queen Brunhilde, the wife of his nephew. She hated him, and let's just say she had a long memory and a long list of people to take revenge on. Medieval France wasn't just about wars, it was about surviving your own family. After decades of power struggles, Clothar won. His brothers, dead, their lands, his. By 558 AD, he became the king of the Franks, ruling over everything his father once controlled. But did he finally create a stable kingdom? Of course not. Because like his father, Clothar made the brilliant decision to divide his empire among his sons when he died in 561. And just like clockwork, they started fighting all over again. Clothar I was a warrior king who unified Gaul, only for it to immediately break apart after his death. His sons carried on the family tradition of feuding, and his legacy? Well, let's just say it was complicated. And with that, we move on to one of those sons, Childeric I, the king who cared more about his love life than his kingdom.